Well, this is starting to get serious. The takeover of Manchester United, Sheikh Jassim and 9-2 Foundation's offer. INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's offer. Tomorrow with a 9 p.m. deadline, bids are expected, multiple bids expected. With Manchester United, 5 billion plus. It looks like that's going to be the sort of level of the offers, and I'm going to run through all of that in this. It is a major update, this one. Things are really cranking up and kicking into gear. So I'm going to cover all of the breaking news this morning. So make sure you subscribe because I'm going to cover this whole takeover in as much detail as possible. I'd love to have you as part of the community. Let's get straight into it. Now, the story that we've seen over these last 24 hours kind of kicked off here with Sky and Kavi Solihull saying that Manchester United were expecting more than 5 bids for the club on Wednesday. Jim Ratcliffe interview, I will cover that in a bit more detail. I was going to do a whole video on that. That'll be a little bit later in the show because it never really makes sense to me. It didn't stack up the fact that he gave that interview to Wall Street Journal. It does now. Anyway, this came out yesterday, and then we found out from James Ducker. He sort of corroborated the information that 9 p.m. today is that deadline. And now we've got big updates from Mike Keegan and from Matt Lawton in the Times. Let's run through those. Mike Keegan here is saying that this fee will break the world record if the Glazers sell. Second offers are expected tomorrow, and they're going to be north of 5 billion. Qatari bid remains favourite, but SJR and his team impressed last week. And that little snippet there about Jim Ratcliffe maybe coupling with other bidders, that's also reported here by Matt Lawton in the Times. And this is a really interesting and quite worrying, I would say, update. Let me run through this full article with you from Matt Lawton, as I say, from the Times. Manchester United are confident they will receive offers in excess of £5 billion. Now, the Glazers, we know full well, have been chasing £6 billion. We know that's a pipe dream. But north of £5 billion, that would make it a world record sale. Ahead of I think Denver Broncos were sold for about $4.8 billion previously. So £5 billion of Manchester United would blow that out of the water. There you go. It's written right there, 4.65, Denver Broncos. As many as 6 rival big groups are expected to table offers before Wednesday's deadline, and the expectation is that at least 2 will raise their offers beyond the 5 billion. Understood the opening offers were close to 4.5. While a Qatari group led by Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani remain favourites, and that's kind of what everybody is reporting, that they do remain favourites. And they've kind of maintained that the whole way through. I don't know whether that's just because of the finances they got, but realistically, it probably is mainly around the money. And let's be honest, the Glazers just want the most money, so I understand that concept. Sources have said that the INEOS bidders fronted by Sir Jim Ratcliffe impressed during their meetings. The Qataris had their meetings the previous day, with insiders insisting those discussions were also positive. But this bit here is a big update. And it's the first time that we've had this conversation. While INEOS is only looking to purchase the 69% stake of United at present owned by the Glazers, its pursuit of United, the Times understands, could be strengthened by a possible partnership with one of the other bid groups. Now, that is a big and important update for a couple of reasons. But the main reason there, I do not like. The idea there that Jim Ratcliffe could partner with one of the other bidders. Well, who are those other bidder groups? That's what you're going to ask straight away. We know full well that MSD Capital, they've been linked with it. And I'm talking about US hedge funds, US investment firms, MSD Capital, Oak Tree Capital, and the world's worst website in the world, Elliott Management. I don't know what they must have made that website on Windows XP and just never updated it. It's abysmal, absolutely abysmal. But this idea here that INEOS, to strengthen their bid, would partner with a hedge fund or investment firm, alarm bells, red flags. That has a red flag to it. Elliott Management, we know full well, have already met with Manchester United, right? I think they met them before the meetings with last Thursday and Friday with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Sheikh Jassim bid. But I do not like that whatsoever. I have to be completely honest and say that. And if it was the same conversation around Qatari linking up with other, I would have the same concerns around that. Let's see if there's anything else written inside this article. Sheikh Jassim's group is looking to buy 100% of the club. We know that. The Qataris and INEOS remain the leading contenders as the second stage of the sale process reaches its conclusion. But as many as 8 groups have met with officials, as well as their bankers from Rain during tours We know full well, as I said, it's written right there, that Elliott Group is one of those. I've just mentioned MSD Capital. I've just mentioned Oak Tree Capital. There's others. There's others that we don't know about. And I don't know when or if we will find out about those. But this is a big old update. Tomorrow, those bids in excess of £5 billion. That's more towards the conversation that the Glazers want to have. That's more towards that $6 billion, which was always a pipe dream. They were just putting that number. It just inflated the price. They were never going to get that. But north of $5 billion, making it a world record sale, that would be, well, that's what the Glazers want. You know what would be genuinely quite hilarious, actually, is that the Washington Commanders NFL team currently going through a sale process as well. And that, look at the fees and the numbers involved there, $7 billion plus. So it could well be that Manchester United, hypothetically, of course, gets sold for a world record bid. And then a few weeks later, that world record gets broken. So the Glazers only hold that record for a few weeks. Hilarious. But this is significant. Really significant. Both from the fact that the Qatari bid is going to go north of $5 billion. That's a big step up from the original indicative bids that we were hearing about 4 to 4.5. It's a big step up and probably more towards the place where the Glazers would genuinely negotiate. And also that second conversation there around the idea that INEOS, in order to strengthen their bid, might partner with another one of the groups. That's alarm bells, because those groups are likely to be investment firms, American investment firms, and I do not like the sound of that. Now, something I was going to cover actually in a full video here today, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe interview with the Wall Street Journal. It left me scratching my head a bit, because I was like, I understand the fact that Jim Ratcliffe is taking a different approach to the 9-2 Foundation and Sheikh Jassim. He's taking a more public stance with the media and trying to leverage the power of the media to improve the power of his own bid. I understand that. That's why I understood the photos, the sort of walking on the Old Trafford forecourt and the photos that existed there. But it didn't really make sense to me that he would give that interview with the Wall Street Journal as well. Didn't speak to the Times, didn't speak to the Athletic, didn't speak to the Telegraph, all the big established newspapers in the UK. Spoke to the Wall Street Journal. I was like, why is that? So I subscribed to the Wall Street Journal and I read the full article, and it became abundantly obvious why he did that straight away, because Manchester United was not the main part of that conversation with the Wall Street Journal. It was about expansion in the USA for INEOS. So what's transpired is last month, INEOS made an investment of over $1.4 billion into oil fracking in Texas. And that's their first venture into the US oil and energy market. And this whole article, the Wall Street Journal interview, Jim Ratcliffe is focusing mainly on the oil side of things. He talks about the grand plan. I don't know whether he's talking about Manchester United there. The grand plan, there isn't one. But it's this. INEOS are moving in to the US energy market. This is the first time that they have done it. Fracking, if you don't know what it is, it's an environmentally questionable method of oil extraction, I think. I'm not a fracking expert, but I'm not an expert. But obviously, it's currently illegal in the UK, and INEOS would love to do that in the UK, but they can't. They've done it in the US, and now they've invested last month over $1.4 billion into fracking in Texas. And just if you go down this interview, this whole interview is about oil and gas. And he said, oil and gas is in turmoil. What that does is create opportunities, says Jim Ratcliffe. And then he goes on there, and that's when he talks about Manchester United. One interest in that club will be purely in winning things. And then that's down here about, that's why it didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense that this interview was given to the Wall Street Journal, but it makes sense now. It's because it was Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. They need a more public face inside the US market, the US financial market. And this concept of Jim Ratcliffe overpaying for Manchester United would directly impact INEOS's ability to negotiate as a business inside the US market. If they're seen as a weak negotiator and they're willing to overpay, then everyone else is going to rinse them. That's why that interview went out. It was to protect the power of INEOS from a negotiation perspective in their other ventures, rather than anything to do with strengthening a bid for Manchester United, because I can be completely honest, that didn't strengthen that bid. Him coming out and saying, I'm not going to overpay, doesn't help him at all. Now it makes sense. It was all about the image of INEOS in the US market and making sure that competitors didn't think that INEOS would just overpay for everything. That's why that interview went out. Kind of ulterior motive, if you want to be completely honest. But the big update there today is around the fact that tomorrow's a big day, man. These bids are going in excess of £5 billion. Mike Keegan confirming it, and Matt Lawton from the Times here, both confirming the exact same story, pretty much at the exact same time. So they must have similar sources. Bids north of £5 billion, more than one going in. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS willing to partner with maybe MSD Capital, maybe Oaktree Capital, maybe Elliott Management. But they're willing to partner with somebody else to strengthen their bid. I don't like the sound of that. That's the update. You let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you join the community if you haven't already, because this is a very significant moment for the history of our club.